Hello, and thank you for participating in the fiscal year 2019 Department of Education's Fulbright-Hays Group Projects Abroad Short-Term Technical Assistance webinar. My name is Cory, Neal. I am the GPA Program Manager. Please note that we will be conducting two separate workshops for this year for GPA Short-Term Projects and for GPA Long-Term Projects. This technical assistant workshop will focus on short-term projects. Both of these webinars have been pre-recorded and can be accessed through the Department of Education's GPA website. The agenda for the technical assistant workshop is as follows. We will provide the purpose of the GPA short-term program. We will also review the competition highlights as referenced in the NIAs. We'll discuss the eligibility requirements for both applicants and participants. We will review each of the short-term project types. We'll discuss each of the project phases for the short-term projects, go over the allowable cost under the GPA short-term program, review the selection criteria and the process for selecting awardees, and lastly, we will provide some helpful tips for developing a competitive application. The GPA short-term program is designed to promote, improve, and develop modern foreign languages and area studies throughout the educational structure of the U.S. The program gives K through 12 teachers, faculty, undergraduate, and graduate students opportunities to conduct research and studies abroad in modern foreign language and area and international studies. We define area studies as the study of the aspects of a society or societies, including the study of their geography, history, culture, economy, politics, international relations, or languages. Our estimated range of awards this year are between $50,000 and $100,000, with an average size of an award being approximately $80,000. The estimated number of awards this year is 25, with 10 of those being short-term projects, 15 being long-term projects. Please note that the Department of Education is not bound by any estimates in this notice. For fiscal year 2019, the absolute priority for this competition is that a group project focuses on one or more of the following geographic regions of the world: Africa, East Asia, Southeast Asia and the Pacific, the Western Hemisphere, including Central and South America, Mexico, and the Caribbean, Eastern and Central Europe and Eurasia, and the Near East. Please note that GPA short-term projects that focus on Western Europe will not be reviewed. And these countries include Andorra, Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Malta, Monaco, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, San Marino, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the UK. GPA short-term applicants can earn additional points if they address the following competitive preference priorities. First, GPA short-term applicants can earn 3 additional points if they are from the following types of institutions and organizations: minority-serving institutions, or MSIs, community colleges, and new applicants, and lastly, state educational agencies. Please note that community college means an institution that meets the definition in Section 312F of the Higher Education Act of 1965, or an institution of higher education as defined in Section 101 of the HEA that awards degrees and certificates, more than 50% of which are not bachelor degrees or an equivalent. New applicant means any applicant that has not received a discretionary grant from the Department of Education under the Fulbright-Hays Act prior to the deadline date for applications under this program. The applicant is not the program director. Applicant refers to the institution applying for funding. And state educational agency means the State Board of Education or other agency or officer primarily responsible for the supervision of public elementary and secondary schools in a state. In the absence of this officer or agency, It is an officer or agency designated by the governor or state law. GPA short-term applications can earn 2 additional points if they propose projects that provide substantive training and thematic focus on any foreign modern languages except French, German, and Spanish. Lastly, GPA short-term applications can earn 2 additional priority points for focusing on projects that develop and improve foreign language studies, area studies, or both at elementary and secondary schools by including K through 12 teachers or K through 12 administrators as at least 50% of the project participants. Next, I'm going to go over applicant and participant eligibility requirements. Eligible applicants for the fiscal year 2019 cycle are institutions of higher education, state departments of education, private nonprofit educational organizations, and consortia of institutions, departments, and organizations. An individual is eligible to participate in a GPA short-term project if he or she is a citizen, national, or permanent resident of the United States, meaning they have a green card, and an individual who is currently employed full-time in a United States school system, institution of higher education, local education agency, or state education agency. Individuals who are not currently employed and or studying full-time or its equivalent are not eligible. The program will allow a combination of teaching and studying at 100% total to be eligible. Okay, continuing on with eligibility. Participants must be a teacher in an elementary or secondary school or a faculty member who teaches modern foreign language or area studies, or an experienced education administrator responsible for planning, conducting, or supervising programs in modern foreign language or area studies at the elementary, secondary, or post-secondary levels, or a graduate student or junior or senior in an institution of higher education who is a prospective teacher in the areas of social sciences, humanities, and foreign languages. Please note that graduate students or juniors and seniors do not have to be working full-time to be eligible. The student should meet the provisions set by his or her local and state education agencies. Okay, there are 3 types of GPA short-term projects. There are short-term seminars, curriculum development programs, and the group research or study programs. So let's break down those individual projects. The short-term seminar projects typically last 4 weeks and are designed to promote the integration of international studies into the social sciences and or humanities. And or humanities curriculum throughout the U.S. school systems at all levels. Again, these programs increase linguistic and or cultural competency among U.S. students and educators, and they focus on a particular aspect of area study, such as the culture of the area or a portion of the culture of the country of study. Second, we have the curriculum development projects. These are generally 4 weeks in length and allow for participants to acquire first-hand resource materials, including artifacts, books, documents, educational films, recordings, museum reproductions, and other instructional material for curriculum development in modern foreign language and area studies for use and dissemination in the U.S. And our last short-term project is a group research project. These projects are typically 3 months in length and are designed to give participants the opportunity to undertake research or study in a country outside of the U.S. Unlike the other 2, the short-term group study project, these participants must possess the requisite language proficiency and disciplinary competence in their area of research. The grantee should conduct a language assessment pretest to determine a participant's language proficiency. Okay, let's talk numbers. For a short-term seminar and the short-term curriculum development projects, the minimum time spent in the host country is 4 weeks. This 4 weeks does not include the pre-departure orientation in the U.S. The grant performance period is 18 months. If you choose to spend the minimum 4 weeks in country, you must include 12 participants and 1 project director for a total of 13 people. The maximum grant award for both seminars and curriculum development is $100,000. This information and more can be found on pages 15 and 16 of the application handbook. Group research projects are designed to undertake research or study in a country outside of the U.S. The length of these projects is from a minimum of 12 weeks to as long as 12 months. The minimum number of participants is 3, raising the total to 4 people, including the project director. Participants must have a minimum of 1 semester intensive language and 1 course in related area study. This information can be found on page 17 of the application package, and the maximum grant award for group study projects is also $100,000. We highly encourage each applicant to check the State Department's website for alerts and warnings, as GPA applicants proposing to travel to a country that is closed to Fulbrighters will be disqualified. The countries on this slide are the current countries that are closed to Fulbrighters. If you are unsure of a specific country, please feel free to email me at gpa@ed.gov. As a reminder, as we often receive inquiries about Cuba and Egypt, these countries are currently closed to Fulbrighters. Grantees will have 18 months to carry out their project activities. For fiscal year 2019, the proposed start and end dates are August 31st, 2019 and February 28th, 2021. Now let's discuss the GPA project phases. These phases include the pre-departure phase, the overseas phase, and the post-overseas or follow-up phase. For the pre-departure phase, grantees should allot at minimum 16 hours towards this phase. Pre-departure preparations should consist of conducting a series of lectures on the country of study. Advanced reading materials should also be sent to the participants several weeks prior to the pre-departure orientation. For the pre-departure orientation, we suggest that the applicant include guidelines on curriculum development, discussions on daily living and traveling in the host country, team building exercises, team assignments and individual proposed projects, and language training. This slide contains an example of a pre-departure orientation schedule. Please make sure your pre-departure orientation is detailed as demonstrated by this slide. You may include a copy of your pre-departure orientation in the appendices of your application package. Okay, the next phase is your overseas phase. This is where you should provide detailed information on your in-country itinerary. These details could include a daily itinerary, details about academic lectures, language study, field trips, and cultural activities, debriefings and evaluations, and travel arrangements and accommodations. Please remember, the more information you provide in your project narrative, the more likely you are to receive a respectable score. The next 2 slides provide a detailed in-country itinerary sample. You may include a copy of your day-to-day itinerary in your appendices as well. Applicants should include, in the follow-up phase, an end of seminar evaluation to be completed by each participant to assess the quality of the overseas project. The Department of Education reviews each evaluation submitted by the participants to ascertain the success of the project and to provide suggestions for improvements should the grantee submit a subsequent application for funding. Applicants should include schedules for formal follow-up and dissemination, such as a series of workshops over the course of the next year that includes announcements, discussions, curriculum meetings, presentations, critique of lesson plans, review of curricular products for content, accuracy, and appropriateness, and preparation for publication. Applicants could also discuss how they will arrange follow-up visits to the local area from host country educators to serve as guest lecturers during the summer and to speak in local education settings. This can result in an effective media blitz about the effectiveness of the GPA project, as well as significantly strengthened ties due to follow-up visits. This is a sample chart containing an outline of follow-up activities. This too can be included in your appendices. Okay, let's talk about some of the allowable costs for the GPA Short-Term Program. Funding can be used for the following: lodging and meals, round-trip international travel, and as a reminder, all flights to and from the U.S. must be Fly America Act compliant, travel within the host country, educational materials purchased in the host country, meeting space with the host country, local administrative fees and services, and host country evaluators. It is important to note that the grant does not provide funds for project-related expenses within the U.S. This includes U.S.-based salaries and pre-departure orientation if it's held within the U.S., and follow-up activities. These items may be included as part of the applicant matching contribution. Up next is the selection criteria. These will be used to score your application. These 8 criteria are your selection criteria that you will address in your project narrative. Applicants can receive 100 points for addressing all of the selection criteria. In addition, applicants can receive up to 7 additional points by addressing the competitive preference priorities specific to short-term projects. Under the plan of operation, which is worth 20 points, applicants should introduce the reader to their institution or organization by providing statistics and other demographic information relative to the project. The need for the project, the selection of the country of study, and the objectives of the project should also be discussed. The project design should be addressed. This generally includes the 3 project phases that we discussed earlier in the presentation. Applicants should note how each phase of the project is to be carried out and supported under the plan of operation criteria. Continuing on with the plan of operation, the applicant should also address how the management plan will link all of the project phases and how it will effectively operate under the project parties. Applicants should describe in which ways resources and personnel will be used in achieving the objectives of the project and include details of which key personnel will be responsible for vital project components and activities, and describe the how, why, when, and where project activities will take place. Please include a clear description of how your project will provide equal access and equipment for project participants, regardless of race, color, national origin, gender, age, and or disability. Many applicants neglect to include this description, which results in a point deduction. The quality of key personnel is worth 10 points. Applicants should address the qualifications of the U.S. project director, which includes their academic training, their field of expertise in the host country, the administrative experience, language, and other related qualifications. It is also important to note that the project director's time commitment to the project. Please provide expertise of any other support staff as well as their time commitment to the project. Applicants should also provide host country key personnel qualifications. These can include administrative staff, language teachers, assessors, and evaluators. Please be sure to include their titles, project responsibilities, and again, their time commitments to the project. Applicants should also show, as part of the institution's non-discriminatory employment practices, how employment from underrepresented groups will be without regard to race, color, national origin, gender, age, and or disability. In the Appendices section, the applicant should upload abbreviated curriculum vitae, which should be no more than 3 pages for key personnel. The budget and cost effectiveness is worth 10 points. Applicants should demonstrate and justify that all allowable expenses presented are adequate and reasonable in today's market and necessary to accomplish the project's goals. Applicants should discuss their project's cost effectiveness and show the relationship between the project's cost and the project's objectives. GPA programs do not require matching funds, but we do highly recommend using matching funds. In the budget narrative attachment, applicants should upload a detailed, itemized line budget and accompanying budget narrative that clearly outlines how the costs have been calculated and how they are necessary to the project's objectives. Remember, short-term projects have an 18-month project period, so your budget should reflect those 18 months. The next two slides contain an example of the budget sheet. We recommend applicants organize their budgets into 3 categories to indicate each funding stream, which could include federal funds from the GPA grant, institutional funds, and the participant cost share. The evaluation plan is worth 20 points. A well-designed evaluation plan includes clearly articulated goals, measurable objectives, both quantitative and qualitative, a way to collect data to show progress, formal evaluations at each phase of the project, informal evaluations which can take the form of a midpoint debriefing or daily journals. To add credibility to the evaluation plan, we highly encourage using an external evaluator, which is independent of the project, meaning someone who is outside of your academic department or even external to your institution. Evaluation instruments that will be used to collect data during all project phases should also be included in your appendices. A timetable should be included to highlight when key components of the evaluation plan will occur. Applicants will be required to develop the proposed goals and the project's specific performance measures and activities on the Performance Measurement Form, or PMF. The project goal statement on this example PMF is to increase the quality and relevancy of less commonly taught language materials. The performance measure to support this goal here is to increase the number of instructional modules that could be integrated into existing curriculum. And an activity highlighted here is to identify and propose at the pre-departure orientation meeting 2 to 3 instructional modules to be developed during the group abroad period. Should the applicant become a grantee, they will be required to provide the data indicators, baseline numbers, to include trend data similar to what we have on this slide. For more detailed information regarding evaluation plans, please review the application instructions. This slide is informational only. Successful GPA short-term applicants will be required to collect data on GPA GEPRA measures, specifically GEPRA Measure 2, and report this data to the Department of Education in their final performance reports. The GEPRA measure is the percentage of GPA participants who disseminated information about materials from their group project abroad through more than one outreach activity within 6 months of returning to their home institution. Okay, the adequacy of resources criteria is worth 5 points. Here you want to ask yourself, what resources will I use to accomplish the project goals that I have outlined in my project both in the U.S. and abroad? You should indicate specifics regarding use of facilities, supplies, and other resources to show that they are adequate to carry out the activities in all phases of the project. In the appendices section, applicants should upload letters of support both from the U.S. and your countries, your host countries, institutions, and individuals. Potential impact is worth 15 points. Applicants should focus on the potential impact of the project on the development and improvement of the study of modern foreign languages and area studies on participating institutions of higher education, public and private schools. You should describe the possible long-term benefits to project participants, their students, their colleagues, and their communities resulting from successful completion of the GPA grant. Applications should indicate the process by which resulting curriculum project research will be evaluated for accuracy and effectiveness. Relevance to institutional development is worth 10 points. Applicants should discuss the missions, goals, and objectives of the applicant institution, as well as what it would mean to you to have the GPA grant. The need for overseas experience is worth 10 points. Applicants should discuss how their project will bring about a better understanding of the host country. You should also address the question, why this particular group to this particular place? And lastly, you should describe the relationship to the project and the institution's program development in modern foreign language and area studies. The grants.gov appendices provide applicants with an other attachments section, and this can include preliminary pre-departure orientation agenda, overseas project itinerary, and follow-up activities, CVs of key personnel, remember 3 pages maximum, letters of support, and examples of evaluation materials, project timeline charts, specific PMF forms with proposed measures and activities. Okay, at this time, I'd like to provide you with some tips on putting together a successful application package. As you're getting organized, we encourage you to review abstracts of funded grantees and past successful proposals located on the GPA website. We encourage applicants to develop internal and external linkages that will assist you in putting together a solid application. For example, you may wish to meet with relevant staff from the grants and contracts offices or coordinate with your colleagues on campus that have internal education and grants experience. That way you can develop a robust plan of operation and management plan. In addition, applicants that have secured an external evaluator will send a strong signal to peer reviewers that you're serious about your evaluation. We strongly encourage applicants to review the FAQs on our website, which have been recently updated. We advise you to designate a management team with international and grants experience. You should identify your institution or department's needs and wants, and request letters of support both from the U.S. and abroad. We highly recommend that you review the Federal Register Notice and the GPA program websites for updated information. And of course, please feel free to contact me at gpa@ed.gov, and I'm more than happy to assist you with any questions you might have along the way. When writing your proposal, make sure you address all selection criteria in the order that is listed in the application packet. Applicants should not make peer reviewers search for the information. All right, generating a table of contents is recommended and very helpful in developing a highly organized application. Applicants should also provide a detailed plan of operation and evaluation to include sufficient detail so that someone unfamiliar with your project they could conduct it. Write clear, measurable goals, objectives, and outcome, and provide a specific and detailed budget. Please avoid grammatical errors and specific professional jargon and acronyms, and use persuasive descriptions of how your project operates. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to be clear, concise, and detailed. When submitting your application, make sure you register early on grants.gov to avoid any system issues. Save your written proposal to avoid any computer issues. If your institution is not funded, consult the reviewer comments and reapply. And please do not wait until the last minute to submit. The deadline for your application is March 25th, 2019 at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. All applicants will be notified of their results via email by September 30th, 2019. Scores and comments will be sent to all applicants via mail, and for successful grantees, be prepared to hit the ground running. These websites will be very helpful to you as you work on your application. You can find sample abstracts from past successful projects, sample narratives, submission instructions, and a link to subscribe to our quarterly newsletter. This slide contains a link to the GPA website, as well as my contact information. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I am more than happy to answer any questions, no matter how big or how small. And lastly, thank you for taking the time to listen to the GPA Short-Term Technical Assistance webinar. I hope that it will help you in putting together a competitive application. We wish you the best of luck and look forward to your application.